What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 recent returns I just got back into the mail. And this first one, we'll jump right into it, is postmarked from Alabama. And it is from former Auburn football legend Mike Fuller on 1, 2, a third, and a fourth on a 4-player card here. Mr. Fuller signed right there, and I know Charlie Joyner's a pretty good signer through the mail. I'm not too sure about the other 2 guys on that card, but we'll explore those options here in the near future. So let me tell you about Mike Fuller and his career in football. Mike Fuller was born in Jackson, Mississippi, and he actually grew up in Mobile, Alabama, where he played football for John Shaw High School. After his high school years, he signed to play at Auburn University. And while at Auburn, he was named to the All-SEC First Team for the 1973 and 74 seasons as a defensive back. After his time at Auburn, Fuller was drafted in the 3rd round of the 1975 draft by the San Diego Chargers. His rookie year, he appeared in all 14 games for the Chargers that year, starting 6 of them. Not just playing the defensive backfield, but also being the kick and punt returner for that team. The following year, in 1976, John would be a full-time starter, not just in the backfield, but also playing for kick and punt returns. And he would continue to be a punt returner for the majority of his career, even after he left the San Diego Chargers. Every year after his second season being a starter, he would continue being a starter for most of his tenure with the San Diego Chargers. After the 1980 season, he actually left the Chargers to sign with the Cincinnati Bengals, where he would also play strong safety and defensive back with them, as well as do kick and punt returns. He would then finish in 1982 at the age of 29 with his final season in the NFL with the Bengals. In his total seasons as a safety, intercepted 17 passes, returned them for 176 yards. As a kick returner and special team in his 8 seasons, he gained 1,701 yards of returning kickoffs and 2,660 yards returning punts with 2 touchdowns. For his career, Fuller appeared in 114 games, starting 78 of those over an 8-year career, 6 of those spanning with the San Diego Chargers and the last 2 with the Cincinnati Bengals. So overall, very happy to get Mr. Fuller's autograph back on these 1970s era NFL cards. I recently sent out a whole bunch of these, so hopefully you'll be seeing a lot of these back in the near future, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, this next one is postmarked from Texas, and if you know your Dallas Cowboys from the 1970s, you're going to know this guy. This is former Dallas Cowboy offensive lineman center John Fitzgerald on 4 of 4, ranging from the 1970s to the early 80s. So this is John Fitzgerald, not to be confused with that other John Fitzgerald, but this is John Fitzgerald that played for the Dallas Cowboys during the bulk of the 1970s. So let me tell you about John Fitzgerald and his career in football. John Fitzgerald attended high school in Massachusetts, where he actually started out as a 315-pound fullback in high school. He also was on the high school shot put team. He accepted a football scholarship from Boston College, where he became a 2-way tackle, playing both offensive and defensive sides of the ball during his 3-year varsity career at Boston College. John was selected in the 1970 draft in round 4 out of Boston College by the Dallas Cowboys. At first with the Dallas Cowboys, Fitzgerald was a defensive tackle before trying him out at different offensive line positions. He was actually let go before the start of the season in 1970, but was later re-signed to join the taxi squad. In 1971, he was a backup at offensive guard. In 1972, he was converted to center during training camp and was the backup behind Dave Manders. By 1973, Fitzgerald found his starting role, and he took over at the center position full-time. standing at 6'5", 250 pounds. The imposing John Fitzgerald became a fixture of Tom Landry's offense throughout the 1970s. One of the things that Fitzgerald took pride in was that he could long snap in a shotgun formation, passing the ball 7 yards backwards without looking. In 1977, he missed a couple games with knee and ankle injuries, and he would re-injure these injuries actually and miss a couple other games in 1978 due to that injury. In 1979, Fitzgerald named the offensive line as the Four Irishmen and a Scot, referring to himself, Pat Donovan, Jim Cooper, Tom Raftery, and Herb Scott. In 1980, he missed 2 regular season games and 3 playoff contests with shoulder and knee injuries. On August 31st, 1981, due to injuries, he was placed on the injured list by the Cowboys. Later, in January of 1982, John would announce that he would retirement due to his injuries and also losing his starting job at the center position. Despite playing for the superb teams of the Dallas Cowboys, Fitzgerald never appeared in a Pro Bowl, but still became a central part of the strong offensive line for Dallas for most of that decade. He helped the Cowboys win 2 Super Bowl championships and make playoff appearances in every season that he played except for one during his time there. Over his 10-year NFL career, he played in 138 games for the Dallas Cowboys. So one of the things that I always like to talk about was the great Tom Landry. One of the stories that I remember reading about Tom Landry was if you couldn't find yourself a position on his team within like 3 to 5 years, it was time for you to go. Well, in Fitzgerald's case, they decided to waive him his first season after being drafted out of Boston College. And despite being disparaged and down from losing his job, it just drove him to work harder at a different position. So if John Fitzgerald was not cut loose his rookie season as a defensive player, he may not have become the great center that the Dallas Cowboys had for nearly a decade if it weren't for that event. So the irony of it is he was let go by the team that actually used him for the next decade. So he found his job even though he was let go by the same employer. So very happy to add Mr. Fitzgerald to the collection. One of the all-time greats from that era. Very happy to add another autograph I didn't have to my collection, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, so this final one, this individual does not sign more than one autograph through the mail. At least I haven't seen him sign more than one. So maybe you'll get lucky and you'll get more than one. But I decided to write this individual and wrote him the same letter that I write everybody else. And was very happy to get this returned back because I'd never gotten him before. And I am talking about former tight end of the Oakland Raiders / Colts, Raymond Chester. So let me tell you about Raymond Chester and his career in football. Raymond Chester was born outside of Baltimore, Maryland. He attended high school in Baltimore where he excelled at both track, wrestling, and football. He moved to go play college football at Morgan State, concentrating his efforts under just football and not the other sports. During his time with the Bears at Morgan State, Chester played on the team that was unbeaten in 1968. He was part of the historic Morgan State Grambling game that took place at Yankee Stadium that year as well. In that game, Chester hauled in Morgan State's only touchdown, leading the Bears to an ultimate victory of 9-7 over the Grambling Tigers. Chester was drafted in the NFL Draft in 1970, 24th overall by the Oakland Raiders. He started in his rookie season contributing to the Raiders' 8-4-2 season and their appearance in the AFC Division playoffs. In his rookie season, along with his 42 receptions, 556 yards, and 7 touchdowns, he earned his first Pro Bowl in his rookie season. The next 2 seasons, in 1971 and 72, Chester would be on the Raiders, and he would again make the Pro Bowl for 3 consecutive seasons. After the 1972 season, Chester had an opportunity to go back home and play for the Baltimore Colts. He was sent to the Baltimore Colts, and he would actually spend 5 years playing for the Baltimore Colts, putting up great numbers. However, during his time in Baltimore, he did not make a Pro Bowl, which is kind of ironic. His first 3 seasons, Pro Bowler, but his next 5, not a Pro Bowler. Well, after he finished up his tenure with the Baltimore Colts, Chester decided he loved Oakland so much and Al Davis that he moved back to Oakland and signed with the Oakland Raiders in 1978. He would spend the entire 1978 with the Raiders, amassing some pretty decent numbers in 16 games. However, in 1979, he would again get his 4th Pro Bowl selection of his career. Almost 8 years between Pro Bowl selections with him being selected between Pro Bowls, which is just kind of ironic. Usually when somebody is a 3-time consecutive Pro Bowler, they don't have an 8-year drought between Pro Bowls. But Raymond Chester did just that. Chester would remain with Oakland, and in 1980 would win the Super Bowl with the Oakland Raiders. He would then finish up his career in 1981 with the Oakland Raiders, appearing in 16 of their games, and he would retire from the NFL after that 1981 season. In his career, Chester would appear in 172 games for the Colts and the Raiders, scoring 48 touchdowns during his career. According to his Wikipedia page, him and Al Davis remained friends until Al's death in 2011. After his 1981 season where he decided to retire, he sat one season out and he decided to be involved in the development of the USFL, which consisted of 18 teams, one of which was in Oakland at the time. Chester actually came out of retirement and played a single season with the Oakland Invaders in 1983. That one season, at 35 years old, I would assume, he actually won the USFL Man of the Year award that year in the USL, the one and only year he was a player. After he retired from football, Chester actually became involved in managing a golf course. He actually worked at a golf course for the next 20 years of his life until he reached retirement age and retired from working at that golf course. After his playing career, he was elected to the Maryland Athletic Hall of Fame, as well as the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association Hall of Fame for his time at Morgan State. This is one of those people that is very humble about his career. There actually has been some argument for, putting him in the NFL Hall of Fame, but Mr. Chester has come out and said that I'm not going to say that I was the best at my position during that era, but I was in the top 3 or 5. So he's very humble in the fact saying I'm not the best of the best from that era, but I at least should be in the argument for the top 3. So I think that's pretty cool that was his response to his Hall of Fame candidacy. Hey, you never know. Maybe they'll look at Raymond's numbers and say, hey, his contributions to both the NFL and the USFL, maybe they should put him in the Hall of Fame because there's not a lot of people that can, claim a lot of ownership to contributing to the USFL. And this guy was one of the man of the years for the USFL. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. I want to thank Mr. Chester for signing for me. I also want to thank Mr. Fitzgerald for signing all his Dallas Cowboy cards. I know some people aren't big Cowboy fans. I'm not against them or for them. I just enjoy football. I also want to thank Mr. Fuller for signing all of his Chargers cards for me. That one's upside down. There we go. Hopefully we can maybe get Charlie Joyner to sign that one up top as well. I want to thank you for taking the time to view this content. I look forward to your comments below. I hope you enjoyed the vintage football cards, and as always, happy collecting.